Okay, without further ado, I'd like to call the regular Dwight School Building Committee meeting for Tuesday, December 30th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick roll call. Myself, Chair Lauren Efren, I've got Dina Blizzo across from me. Online, I have John Purcell and Nicole Olson. That is the extent of the committee members, so that's enough for us to have a quorum. And then we're also joined by Adam Tulin, Purchasing Director, Mark Schweitzer, our project manager from Colliers, and we have Sal Morbido and Chuck, hi, Warrington from Colliers as well. Okay, if we could all just stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, thank you for bearing with us as we encountered our first technical difficulties. Now I know at least how to solve it if that happens again. Okay, we do have a member of the public present. Jeff Galdenzi, who has been appointed to join our committee. He has to be confirmed as yet for the other town boards, but we're pleased to have him here with us. And we look forward to having you join us at the table in future. But I do always hold space in the beginning for public comment, although I was told that I should also have public comment at the end because sometimes people prefer to listen to to the entirety of the meeting and then make up a comment at the end once they've heard everything. So I may be adjusting where I put the public comment, but I like to always at least keep it there because as a member of the public myself at many town meetings, I think it's invaluable to hear everybody's input. Okay, I'm going to move past number 4 unless Jeff, you have a comment you would like to make?
I do not. I know everyone except Nicole, so I'll have
Nicole. Nicole is, yes.
I'm right here.
She's right here. She's another Dwight parent with kindergartner, another one who's in elementary school. Nicole, I'm introducing you by way. She's very dedicated to the cause, and she showed up at meetings last year before she was even a Dwight parent. So,
vice chair.
Yes,
I will be remaining on mute because I'm in the car with said toddlers, so I will be on mute the majority of the time.
Understood, and thank you for joining us, even despite being in a car surrounded by toddlers. That is admirable. Okay, I'd like to move to item number 5 to hear, consider, and approve the minutes and backup for the meetings of December 2nd, 2025 and December 9th, 2025. If I could have...
I have a motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Dina. Nicole, can I have a second? Or John?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all approve. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. We're all set to go. Number 6, to review and discuss the draft RFP for architectural and engineering services with Director of Purchasing Adam Tulin, Director of Energy and Construction Services of FPS Sal Morbido, and Project Manager Mark Schweitzer of Colliers Project Management. I yield the floor to all of you.
Yeah, I'll defer to Mr. Morbido and Mr. Schweitzer. I know they met yesterday to discuss this. I was unavailable, so.
No problem. RFQ, RFP for the architects. Actually, sorry, Mark Schweitzer with Colliers. Do we need to introduce ourselves?
I appreciate that. I'm going to ask that everybody, before they begin speaking, either raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you. Obviously, I yielded the floor to you, but it helps because our recording secretary is not always present, and she said she has a hard time identifying voices, understandably. So if everybody could just announce themselves before they begin to speak.
All right. RFQ or RFP process. How we have set this up is a 2-step process. First, we're going to go out for the RFQ, get qualifications from the architectural firms, get them back, review them, shortlist, ask up to, or minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3.
Is what's required.
Yes,
Okay.
at least 3.
Okay.
shortlist them, and then bring them back for presentations and proposals. How we have set it up.
So everybody who applies is not necessarily everyone who's coming and presenting?
Correct. We're going to shortlist from the what we get, the qualifications that we do receive, and we'll shortlist them down to at least 3 of them.
Okay.
And then bring them back for it. That will allow them more time to prep their presentations, more thought on the project, more ideas on how best to put a school building on that piece of property. So with that, we set up a schedule, and it's up on the screen. We have, basically, we're looking to.
Could I just pause for a second? I wonder if there's any way for you to put this onto the Zoom so that John and Nicole from home could see it?
It should be on the Zoom.
Or can you guys see it? Do you have access? John or Nicole John, I can see you. Can you raise your hand? Can you see it?
We can see it.
We can see it.
Okay,
yeah.
great. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Not very well. There.
That's okay. There we go.
So today's the 30th. We're reviewing it. We'll take back the comments from today's meeting and finalize the RFQ and bring it back for next Tuesday's meeting for approval. We'll look to issue it on Wednesday or Thursday of next week on the DAS website and on the town website through Bonfire. Then we will go from there. Once it's on, it is open for anybody to take a look at it. We have set up, we will set up a virtual site meeting on the 16th at 10:30, where any firm that has taken out plans and wants to get basically a tour of it, virtual tour of the site and what we have out there right now. We'll set that up for January 16th and do a site tour. That will allow them to see it, allow them to basically put eyes on the RFQ and what the site looks like. We will have questions are due. If that generates any questions, they are due by the Tuesday the 20th, and we'll issue an addendum the next couple days. And those questions come through Bonfire, correct?
Yeah, and maybe we could probably talk, this is more behind the scenes stuff, but with Bonfire, I mean, we could issue a traditional addendum, but there's also, it's kind of set up now where we can just answer questions.
Okay.
So we could talk about how we want that to look. Do we want to just be answering Q&A, or do we want to issue a formal addendum? It would allow for either option.
Okay.
For those of us who aren't familiar with the addendum process, could you just explain to us what that means? And I gather that it's the questions that they ask about the RFQ, and then
The questions have to be centralized. They can't. These vendors shouldn't be reaching out to you or even to Mark. Or they're supposed to come into the purchasing department. And not that we're the end all be all, but just so that it's all centralized. And then traditionally, the purchasing department then would talk to Mark or talk to Sal or whoever, to get answers. And then we would issue an addendum, which is like a formal an addendum
Just
to the
package everything up.
Yeah.
but it's like all of your answers
Correct.
to said questions, but for everybody to see.
Yeah. So in the new Bonfire format, there's sort of a new approach where you don't issue the formal addendum. You can just sort of answer questions as they come in, and they're available for everyone to read, just like an
A
addendum.
rolling RFI load, basically.
I have no preference either way.
Okay.
Whatever.
May I ask a question? I don't have my hand raised button. I don't know how that works on here.
It's okay. Thanks, Nicole.
Whenever, okay. Am I okay to talk now?
You're okay to talk.
Okay. By doing the Q&A versus an addendum, wouldn't that save us time? Because wouldn't an addendum be you have until a certain day to submit, and then we would resubmit the addendum with the answers? So doing a Q&A, won't that save some time on that?
The Q&A will be on Bonfire.
Yes.
So it'll be a rolling,
Yeah.
the responses will be basically that day or the next day, and we'll probably cut it off on the 20th.
Perfect.
That way, we'll have 21st and the 22nd to respond to the questions. But yeah, as the questions that are asked are responded to, they'll be live. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Okay,
So-
so just like before, we're going to give them a certain deadline to ask questions by, and then we're done, versus like, okay, now we're going to take it back, an addendum, and then another extended period for everybody to read those answers.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, and if I could, I'm sorry again, I can't find the raise hand either, so I
I'm
apologize.
sorry, that's okay. Thank you. Chuck Warrington is speaking now.
Yeah, Chuck Warrington with Colliers. We also have to be able to make sure we download and print all the questions and answers for filing for audit purposes as well. So just gotta, again, behind the scenes, think about that and make sure that any potential proposers, that it's clear to them where all the questions are at versus the normal addendum process. It's clear, question, answer in a structured format. Again, behind the scenes, I think, Adam, with you, and, we just want to make sure we can print them.
I'll show it to you guys. I'll show you an example from a recent one. It's the sales pitch from Bonfire is how auditable it is. So I'm inclined to think it'll be satisfactory, but I'll share an example with you guys so we're all on the same page.
Perfect. Yep.
And so we're going to review all of those questions on the 20th? Is that?
Well,
No.
No, like, that would be internal.
We can review them as we go, but
Yeah,
they're
okay.
typically responses from they're either procedural questions as far as how many, and used to be, how many hard copies, what's the electronic copy,
Yeah.
so.
But it's a good question, Dina, because for our meeting on the 20th, are we ourselves having
The committee.
the committee discussing any of the questions? It's really just for you guys to answer?
traditionally, it's just an internal, like, we
Yeah.
would just answer it, but yeah, I mean, we can certainly report
Yeah, we can report the
if
other,
anything stands out, or, if anything.
we can probably cut off.
I would
the-
like-
Technical questions,
I
we
would like-
should.
Yeah, I would like to get eyes on it just before you issue responses. If it's the kind of thing where it's like rolling as the questions come in, you're answering them. I don't want to slow that process
We
down.
should stick with the traditional.
Well, we can make the deadline for submitting at 1:00 and we can do all the responses and then
At our meeting.
at the
Yeah.
meeting and have them reviewed and ship them out that day.
I mean, I don't know if the other committee members agree with me, but if it's if they're asking, how many copies do you need or stuff like that, I think we're less concerned about that. I think my concern would be technical questions about, site location and, other things that might be a little bit more technical. Then I think the committee's probably going to be more concerned about it, so. Yeah.
I agree. John or Nicole, do you have any feedback there?
I agree with Dina. I think, at this step of the process, with it being the RFQ versus like an RFP, and even if it is a site question, the site's open at the moment. You just can't go near the school. So most of these questions are going to be things purchasing, and people who do this for a living can answer freely without our input. I would rather them just get it done and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. Nicole, I agree with you. So Dina Palizzo, the reason that I'm asking the question is because we've got virtual site visits on the 16th, which may generate some
The Friday
questions.
before, and it's the holiday weekend, and actually in our pre-meeting yesterday, we were talking about the possibility of Martin Luther King Jr. Day having an on-site if anybody was interested in going in person, but we would have to have staff on site, and of course it's a holiday and not a school day, the school's not open. Sal and Angela's kind of weighed in yesterday, said it would be a little tricky to do that, but I think the idea, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but is that the 16th would sort of be an overall, anybody can, log on and kind of see it. And then if anybody wanted to be on site, we could follow up with them.
And they can make arrangements.
And then we can make arrangements,
we'll
but
give them
do
the
smaller
opportunity to make
groups rather than with a
arrangements
giant group of
Yeah.
architects. And I'm messing around up there during the day while kids are in session.
I wonder what you call it.
Yes, Adam.
Is it a posse?
So maybe, just kind of procedural questions, maybe we can just answer as they come in, and then maybe I'll just keep you apprised of
Okay.
other questions as,
And if we could just see the list in total and kind of, have an idea of how you're responding before the addendum is issued.
No, that's what I meant by keeping you
Right,
apprised.
on the 22nd.
We'll handle the how many copies type questions.
Okay.
But if anything more, involved, anything having to do with the site or the location, or it's the same thing.
Jeff, I feel like you,
Can-
you have, you're thinking it over. Okay.
Well, and the other
I'm going
thing
to
is,
reserve my comments until.
Okay.
well, and the other thing is
oh,
we do
go ahead.
have the ability, sorry, Nicole.
Nope, go
but
for it.
We do have the ability through email and stuff, so if there are technical questions, we can have a special committee meeting if we needed to.
True. We always have the ability to do a special. But let's
I'll
see
be
what we
around.
can, let's see what we can cover on the 20th. If there's any unanswered questions we feel we need to follow up, we can try to do that.
May I ask a question about bonfire to Adam, just out of sheer curiosity?
Yes, Nicole, go ahead.
So with the Q&A being so different from the traditional addendum style, when a question, I don't think it's necessary when a question is asked, but when a question is answered, does it automatically email anyone who has signed up as someone who's submitting to know that that question was answered? Here's the question, here's the answer, so that they can't come back, on due date and be like, oh, well, I didn't see that. Like, will they get it emailed to them, or do they have to log into Bonfire every time to check the Q&A section?
I'll have to double check. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Yeah, let me find out.
Yeah, if that's an option, that's an amazing option. So I just thought it was worth asking because I could see some people doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. But so to return to the schedule, so the idea would be to have the addendum itself with all of the answers issued on the 22nd.
Correct. That way they have a week to do what they need to do with their submissions for the qualifications. And we have them submitted on the 29th of January. And along with that, that'll give, and I'm going to flip forward just so, that'll give, in what we have a whole, essentially 12 days between when they're submitted on the 29th, which is the Thursday where my cursor is, that whole following week, and up through the 9th, even the 10th, to the next building committee, to the building committee on the 10th, where we're looking to shortlist the architects at that point. We will have a building committee meeting in between to talk through items and all that. This whole 12 days will give us the opportunity to check references, to have each of the members go through the packages. We're anticipating over 10 submissions for it, so it is.
Yes, and I'm
it'll
sorry
take some time.
It will take some time, and sorry to keep interrupting you, Mark, but one thing that Nicole and I had kind of talked about offline was dividing that sort of research work, calling the references up if we do get, 10 plus submissions, maybe having 2 committee members per application sort of reviewing it and making sure that, I think it would be a heavy lift to have all of us look through all 10. So if we divided it up that way, it might make it a little bit more manageable. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
And what we talked about yesterday is the list of questions.
Yes.
It should be a standard set of questions
So that's going to
to
be.
each of the references.
I would like to add that to our agenda for next week. We need to come up with a standard list of questions. Obviously, Collier's here to help us, and Adam as well. But it would be something, I think it was Chuck who said that people have actually come to you before and said, well, did you ask everyone that? Right? And it's fair. They want to be sure that we're assessing them all on equal ground and asking them the same things. So that will be the bulk of our meeting next week, is coming up with those standard list of questions to ask all of the references. Okay.
after the review of the qualifications, I'm going to jump back. So we had this, so on weeks that aren't, shortlisting or interviews, we'll transmit the final RFP, which is the second step of this process, on the January 30th, and then we'll take a look at, have it reviewed for the 3rd, which is the week of the reviewing of the qualifications, and approve it. So once we do shortlist on the 10th, we can issue that RFP on the 11th of February. And then we have 3 weeks for the architects to finalize their presentations, finalize their proposals, go through their approach to it, and give the committee a well thought out presentation that is tailored to the site and to the school itself. We did talk about going to 2 weeks, but the 3rd week will allow them an additional week to give a better presentation to the committee.
So that's for the architect side. And then we also talked about.
Yes. Well, let me finish off on the architects. So just to finish it off, on the 3rd of March, we'll set up interviews and do the selection, do the grading.
We'll do the interviews, we'll have a Q&A with each of them, and then we'll have to do the grading process, just like, we did for the PMO. And I did check with Jen, and she has booked the space for us from 9 to 5. We can change that if we don't need it for the full length. I wasn't sure how early we wanted to get started, but if we're going with a short list of at least 3, I think we should give ourselves at least an hour, to start to finish, to give them time to do the presentation, Q&A, and for us to get grading done, and then take maybe a short break in between. Yes, Dina.
If we're going to go with a minimum of 3 and we're going to ask them to be doing multiple proposals each, I think an hour may be a very short window of time.
That's why I booked it for the whole day. We can refine that.
It'll be in the presentation. It'll be concepts. It's not full blown. Even the feasibility study, it's not to that level of detail, but it's going to be concepts, and the proposals are all going to be the same.
Right.
So, but the presentations, they'll take a look and say, here are our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But yes, that's part of the RFP process. When we do sit down to do that, we'll give them. You have 30 minutes, 40 minutes. What's a good time limit for presentations? I know we want Q&A.
Well, we have to keep it fair for each company as well. So
I'm just thinking for, with Q&A and everything else, if we're talking about multiple proposals,
yes,
an hour can go by like that.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I'm just
And I just want to make sure that we're
saying at the very
plenty of
least.
time.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, fair enough. We'll tweak that. We have the full day. So we can decide how long we need for each.
And that's
how long
scheduled for the beginning of March.
Beginning of March.
3rd. Yes.
March 3rd. Okay, great.
Then within the 4th or 5th, the selection of the architect, letter of intent, notice of intent to award.
So the 18th, we could get a contract ideally?
Right. So we have to look to the Board of Selectmen
Very
meetings.
quick.
But I'm saying, is that the ideal?
Yeah, ideally it would be the 18th, but that is very quick for the contract. The contracts are going to go out with the RFQs.
So, I heard back from the town attorney. This is Adam.
Yeah.
I heard back from the town attorney today. He said he is not going to be able within the next week to finalize his review of those documents. So we have 2 options as I see it. We can either attach them clearly indicating their draft sample, something like that.
Yep.
Or, in a week and a half or something, we add them as an addendum, as an exhibit to the bid. But yeah, we're definitely trying to move towards a model of including contract documents in these,
RFQs.
yeah, so that,
Because they've got to clarify in their qualifications, their objections or comments on the contracts. So
because one of our,
Contract with the town.
one of our biggest bottlenecks in any bid or RFP is it's a rush to get the bid out and get a contractor on board, then get a contract on the Board of Selectmen agenda, and then it's weeks and weeks and weeks because then it's the attorneys going back and forth. So we've been really trying to shift the model to get these contracts as a part of the bid documents so that interested parties can say, whoa. I'm interested, but I don't know that I like this language in your contract, so we can address it sooner.
Okay.
I've listed 2 Board of Selectmen meetings, the 18th and the 1st of April, which
So we think the first might be more likely
more likely, yes.
to be when we
And that's
present this
still-
to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen would then
Correct.
have questions for us about what, why we chose, right? And I would
We
assume
do the
that
same
we would-
thing.
Yeah, we would go and sort of defend our decision. Okay.
And on our overall schedule, we had, I know you guys can't see that. We had basically the middle of April, the start of schematic design. So there's a little bit of float. So if we get it the first, even, that'll be even better.
Okay.
That's the architect selection. Just to give you the heads up, as we're doing the architect selection after we shortlist, we will be doing the same thing for the construction managers. And we did talk about this yesterday, and I was about to move the CMRFQ up.
Yes,
But
please.
with winter recess,
Oh, I see.
I wasn't sure. I left it so we could discuss it
Okay.
and go from there. There is some float. We don't need the CM until schematic, a month into schematic design.
Right.
We need them truly at the end to do the estimate, but if they have they're going to provide us constructability and feasibility on materials and site logistics and how they're going to build it. So they might be able to offer
Can I?
commentary on, if you build it into the hill, this is
Yeah.
trouble,
So, well, that sort of brings me to my question of, would it benefit us to have an architect on board before we submit this CMRFQ? Or do we not, one doesn't have anything to
No,
do
we don't
at
need
this
him.
point?
We don't need the architect on board for.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
Can
So-
we go back to Chuck Warrington again? Can we go back to the contracts for a minute? So I want to clarify, the RFQ does not include the contracts. We don't need them for the RFQ. These are purely qualifications only.
True. So
Okay.
yeah, we just want it in time for the RFP.
We need it for the RFP. Just want to clarify
The
that, Adam. We don't
RFP,
need it
that's what I
next.
assumed you meant, and I think we were,
I do have them in the RFQ.
We
And
don't
I-
need them we don't need those
Okay.
we don't need them because they're not submitting a fee proposal.
That's true.
Their review of the contracts be contingent, and their fee will be contingent upon that in there. If you want to put them in there as a basis, that's fine, but if they're going to change, it's kind of a moot point, in my opinion, to put an RFP. We always put in the
Yeah, we still
RFP.
put it in the
as-
RFP, right? That's what he
Well,
said.
just like with anything, attorneys take time.
Yeah.
The sooner they get them,
Yeah.
the sooner they can at least ship them to them. So maybe what we'll do is we'll not put them in right away, have the town attorney review them, and that way we get his comments into them, and get them out to the, when we do get them, we get them out to the architects, and they can ship them to their attorneys and come up with a list of commentaries or whatever in time. That way, the 3 weeks between the short list and the presentation, they'll have them in time.
okay, so the clarification then, Chuck, if I'm hearing you correct, is that the, what are we calling them?
Contracts.
The contracts, sorry. I just had a moment. It's been a long holiday break already. The contracts would go out not with the RFQ, but with the RFP when the RFP is officially released.
That's our recommendation. I should have caught that yesterday, Lauren, so my apologies on that.
That's okay.
You know,
I just want to be sure that the rest of the committee understands it as well. Okay.
because we're just
So,
looking
and-
for
and
the
it
team
makes
and the
sense to me.
qualifications for now.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. That's fine. Okay. So we'll make that one small adjustment. And then, Chuck, was there anything else you wanted to discuss with the RFP or can we continue with the CM RFQ? So that we
Please
can-
continue. No, all set. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, I'm glad you did. Thank you.
The legal side of town to feel like they're rushed because it does take some time. So
Okay.
Can I ask a weird question about in the order of which this stuff goes? This is Nicole Olson.
Thanks.
I'm a little confused about because of our site issues in the fault line and the feasibility study. So obviously we're going to kind of be picking the architect before we even know what the architect's design is ultimately going to be. Will the construction manager be chosen before we pick final design then? Because everybody keeps mentioning like the feasibility study. Can we build on the upper field? Can we break into make it a 2-level and cut into that ledge? And is that even possible? Like, are the architects 100% aware? Are we relying on the CM to kind of tell us like, hey, I'm reading this and in my professional opinion, excavating into that hill is a bad idea? Like, I don't want to pick one solution and then find out like it isn't the best solution. It would have been better to break into the ledge, or it would have been better to build all on top of the hill. Will they all collaborate together before we pick final design?
Yes, they will. You'll have the major players of your team together during schematic design, and
Okay.
that's actually a good segue. One of the items in the RFQ is
Or the CM.
for the architect is
Okay.
we're going to carry a minimum of 3 alternates to schematic design from the architects.
The thought being that there's a precedent for this, actually. The last school build, not the HVAC committee, but Mill Hill, they had 3 different schematic designs that were drawn up for their architect so that they could select from those 3. And again, I know I've been harping about this for the last few weeks, but really what it comes down to is what we have so far are 2, and there's a very wide gap between the 2. And they were only conceptual, right? They're not full schematic designs, but it was a $10 million difference. That's a huge difference. If there was a possibility for even a third option that could save us some money, we should absolutely, for the town, consider that. And also just to give ourselves a little bit of a buffer. But if in the end, the more expensive option is the safer, better, more sustainable, what have you, we would be able to at least defend the reason why we chose that. So I like that plan. Okay.
Okay, with the CMRFQ, basically the same timeline. The draft, the review of the draft, the transmittal of the final. We are looking to get the CMRFQ out on the 4th of March. Maybe sooner if we do it over the winter recess and get it out. That way we're not approving the CMRFQ the same day we do the architect selection. Same 3 weeks for the CM to provide qualifications. And then, again, the same, basically 12 days of reviewing the qualifications. Reviewing the submittal packages, checking references, and going through that. This is only through March, but yeah, we will have. It'll be
The 17th would be the questions. That's when they need to submit their questions by, and
Correct.
you guys would do your addendum on the 19th. So we would have an opportunity to see their questions
Correct.
and sort of review them then. Okay. And then the CM qualifications too. Okay, I see on the 26th.
26th, And then I only did this calendar through March, but we'd be shortlisting on,
Would the
December.
idea be if we had April 1st for the Board of Selectmen meeting, like if it was finalized for the architect, we would have the architect on board and that we would be doing the interviews for the CM in April?
After that, yes.
After that.
correct.
This may seem like a silly question, but do the architects typically ask some questions during those interviews for the CM, or are they just, we've made our selection with them, they're sort of there to advise us, and that's it?
Basically, they'll provide questions, but they will not be, they can be part of the process if we choose.
Yeah, Lauren, Chuck Warrington here again. Kind of similar we talked about with our input. It's up to your committee if you want to solicit the architect's experience with the firms. I think there is value to doing that. Again, combining, if you ask ours and theirs, what their experience is. I think theirs could be very interesting. You got to take it with a grain of salt too and kind of weed through it because some CMs will push on the architects on projects, quality of documents, et cetera. So, but I think we can assist with that with respect to that input, if you will. But it's totally up to you if you want to have them involved or not.
If we solicit their advice. So
Yeah.
actually, thank you for bringing that up, Chuck, because we did have this discussion yesterday, and I think I'd just like to put this out to the other committee members present and to the public as well, who may be eventually listening along, is that Colliers in their capacity as our advisors will of course be here while we conduct, the interviews and for both the architects and the CMs. But they will not themselves be asking the questions. We will, and then we can ask for their input if we choose, after each, I guess, presentation. But it is not on them to provide input unless called upon. I think that's just important distinction to know. Of course, we value your opinion, but legally speaking, it is the committee's decision.
It's an independent selection process.
Thank you, Dina.
Yeah, I know. And Lauren, also down in Stanford, I kind of like the practice is you ask the questions, you go through it. We've been asked down there when it comes to that final selection, we were asked to leave the room so your committee can debate it. That might not be a bad idea, so that is purely your decision. We're gone. You make the decision. You've heard what you want from us or not. And then you go from there. So
That makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
problem.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I know I had a lot yesterday. I'll try to keep my questions
Well, on the schedule.
on the schedule.
Yeah.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions on the schedule or questions about how this process works before we jump to the draft RFQ itself?
I'm good.
You're good, Dina?
I'm good.
Okay.
I didn't think it was gonna. Was not sharing. Was sharing what the schedule. All right. RFQ for the architects. What I've done is obviously we have a template and plugged in and gone through it. You'll see highlights, yellow highlights that we had questions on. Blue highlight. There was one blue highlight that I've got to confirm that it's still valid. The going through, and as we spoke, the appendices. Well, let me.
Yeah, let's just start from the beginning. Let everybody see. You had it sort of up on two screens yesterday when I saw it, but we'll go through. So, and just so everybody knows, I did review the Mill Hill RFQ. So this was sort of familiar to me. I went back and I looked at the bids as they had been submitted in 2023, and this is very standard form. So, but I I think it's helpful for everybody to know because this is the first time for them to probably see it, except for maybe Jeff. Jeff has probably seen this. Okay, so you've got project introduction.
Basically, project overview. So we go through the introduction, the building description, ed specs, budget estimates and schedule, project delivery. We're assuming the CM, construction managers, and then we get into the architect's scope of services through from start to finish, basically, from conceptual all the way through construction documents and closeout. And we've listed other design services, the geotech, site survey, the site assessment, which is a state required step, the hazardous materials investigation, traffic study if it's deemed necessary, and then we have the agreement. And then these are any special requirements, and then statement of minimum qualifications, and we'll get to this later. The selection process. This is 4, 5, 6 are basically all procedural in nature. So appendices. We do have the standard the AIA doc contracts in there. We can take them out. We'll provide them the ed specs, educational specifications that were approved back in May. We will provide them the macro schedule with the 17-month design schedule and the 17-month construction schedule with the 6-month demo. We will ask in the RFP if they can better the 17-month design schedule, but for fairness, everybody will be evaluated on the 17-month design schedule. We have the tax assessor's card and the location map, the enrollment projections, the committee charge, and then we will provide them the feasibility study from Skulls, and then the Silver Petrocelli report from 24.
Dina Palisa.
Quick question, do we have a survey for this site? Is there an existing survey that we should be including as well?
So everything that we have is available on our Dwight Building Committee website under files and documents, and the only survey that I'm aware of is the one done by Spiegels and Partners.
So that's the only one that exists?
Yes, but it's not to say that the architect themselves shouldn't be submitting and conducting their own.
Correct.
Yeah, just because we have one.
Okay, yeah, no, I wasn't
good
sure if
question.
there was something other than the Spiegel one that was in there that was done, like an official survey that the town had done.
There's GIS mapping on the town website that's
Yeah.
good to 2-foot contours and all that. I mean, the architects for design will want better detail, but that'll get them for the qualifications and for the RFP for the presentations.
So I know that with the geology, they want more, yeah.
Yes, they will want more. We will want them to have more because
Yeah.
construction will be based on where
Absolutely.
I don't know where this fits in, but I just went back to one of our original minutes of our building committee back in October, actually. And Sal, you had mentioned the need, and I don't know where this fits in, for a solar feasibility study that's required by the state for the building grant reimbursement process. Is that something that we should include because we do have a solar array that's currently on top? Is that part of the environmental?
It's part of the OGA documentation for the plant completion review. So it'll be it's called in through there, but we can make a note that
I just want to be sure that it's.
The contract will read that they will need to provide us all documentation for the OGA plant completion review.
Okay, I just remember
Correct.
seeing Sal.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I agree with Mark. It's going to be a document that's going to be provided by the design professional for the OGA submission.
So we go through project introduction, Fairfield Public Schools, qualified firms, building description. And this is, you'll see this becomes repetitive. This is straight from,
Straight from the Spiegel's report.
and the OPM, yeah. You probably grabbed it from the Seagal's. The education specifications, as approved by the Board of Ed back in May. Project budget that was approved by the town boards.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that we had a question that you were going to research, Lauren, I believe, about whether or not the 76 million included cleanup as well. Did we ever get an answer to that?
No, that's actually I'm glad you brought it up.
Cleanup of,
So in our scope initially as the Dwight Building Committee, it was, the $76 million, right, was attached to the Spiegel's report for 1F, as we know it, the new build into the hill, right? So that's where the money itself was aligned with that selection. However, if you look at our building committee scope, it does not actually list out the demolition. Adam, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to go, actually, I'm on our website now. I can go back. But if you, our committee charge, it talks about the educational specifications, how we should retain an architect for planning, programming, design, contract administration, all of these things. It doesn't say in writing. And maybe I'm analyzing this way too much, but it doesn't say anything about the demolition of the existing building. And I do know that for Spiegel's, they did include it in there because I remember there being several questions, particularly by the Board of Finance, about the hazardous materials and how much they had estimated for those to be, carried away and dealt with. And they felt like it was, it was the Board of Ed. They felt that it was much too low. And I do believe that's what caused it to jump initially from 74 million to 76, was a lot of the soft costs that were associated with dealing with that. So I assume that, our charge is to cover both of those, but I just want to be clear for the architect, I'm glad you brought it up, Dina, that they're aware that this is not just a new build. This is a new build plus a demolition.
And removal.
And that there could potentially, because we only have soil borings from the feasibility study up on the field, we don't actually have any around the school, and seen as it's an old site, and we know that they potentially used lead in their pipes and things like that, that there are hazardous materials that,
Like PCBs.
yes, we know, right, in the,
Potentially asbestos.
right. There's definitely asbestos. There's reports of that. And there's also PCBs underneath of the drop roof in the gymnasium. So I just want to be sure that we're listing this out correctly in any RFQ that we issue, that
We need to make sure that it's all included because we want to make sure we aren't telling them that we have $76 million to build a new building and they don't
exactly.
anticipate any of the cleanup of the old building.
And as long as we plan for it,
Yeah.
there's no reason why we can't do both. And if anything, Spiegel's was anticipating that we could definitely do both with the $76 million. But we just want to be sure because it is not, in fact, in our initial charge, which I didn't, and I thoroughly analyzed that and asked a lot of questions. I came to the Board of Selectmen meeting when they were discussing our charge, and I didn't think to question that. But okay, so thank you for bringing it up, Dina.
okay,
So maybe we need to just make sure that it's in project estimates.
yes.
Okay.
Project estimates, we'll have 3 different estimates, and as we discussed yesterday, the minimum of 3 alternates taken from the conceptual design through schematic design has a cost impact to it. and we will get the, in the proposal, we will get the, what the cost of each additional estimate will cost to do a schematic design estimate, not only for the architect, but also for the CM. We'll do an initial plus, the additional two. Project schedule, basically this is what we went over. This aligns with what we just went over. On the calendar, we have the virtuals highlighted just as a question mark, which we will be doing. The proposals I have due on the day before the presentations, or do you expect them with the presentation?
I don't have a preference.
We can have them, and they go through bonfire as it is anyways, correct?
Yeah.
So that we can do a day of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam, along with that, and Lauren, we talked about this the other day. They come in just before the interviews, fine, but with their proposal, with that's going to be those exceptions to the contract. Now, we kind of talked about our timing of doing the interviews. You make the selection right there. The part of that discussion should be taken into account. What are those exceptions to the contract now? Whether, Adam, we can open those up the day before to kind of, I don't know if Colliers can review them before, if you want to wait till after the interviews, but those may possibly play into your decision making if they have a lot of exceptions that are just clearly unacceptable. We haven't seen that too often from the firms that we expect to propose on this. We've always gotten through those, but just something to think about is, we're just going to be seeing them hot, the day of or just before your interviews. So it takes a little bit to put them in our bid analysis form so we can compare them and kind of look at them side by side, if you will. I prefer not to do them in a meeting because we've actually had an error on a project by $1 million due to rushing it. And I prefer not to do that in a meeting. Okay, here it is. And we would want to take a little bit of time to look at the fees, make sure they all add up correctly, that the values are correct, right, Mark? In New Fairfield, we missed one because it's on the second page. It was just a human error, but it caused a lot of stress. So.
10 sets of eyes looking at you, you're trying to do it on Excel.
So to what we talked about, Chuck, this is a little bit different than what I initially understood. It was that as we're going, okay, so just back up. On March 3rd, when we have our short list of architects who will come in, do their presentations, we'll have our Q&As with them, and then we'll do our grading. I'm trying to remember back to how we did it for PMO. When exactly do we find out about the fees, their proposed fees? Because we held off on that. We looked at everything, we checked all the references. I don't think we knew the fees part until just before, right? The day before.
You'd ask for monthly fees. You didn't ask for a lump sum fee.
I know.
With the RFP, that
Right.
was,
which created a little bit of chaos. No, I understand.
Yeah.
But so initially, when we were speaking yesterday, we were talking about like a possible delay of a couple of days before we made our final selection for the RFP, for the architect. Even if we had done all of our grading already and we kind of knew where they aligned, so that we could almost sort of process everything that they had told us. So that made sense to me, Chuck. But what you're saying is that we may need a few days to sort of review their fee proposals and make sure that those are correct as well. And we don't want to rush that process. Yeah.
Yeah, and Adam, that's again kind of behind the scenes of, do you want to get them the Friday before, and then you open them and we put them in an analysis spreadsheet to discuss right after the interviews? I mean, we can talk logistics on that. We don't have to determine it today, but just something to talk about and think about.
So that, the purchasing office and Colliers have had an opportunity to make sure everything is apples to apples, make sure there's no errors before it's presented in a public forum.
Well, and to Chuck's point, if we ask for an hourly fee, right, and we're comparing hourly fees to hourly fees rather than lump sums, it might just make it easier for all of us to understand.
Well, you want to get hourly rates, but you really need to see the
Well, of
total
course.
fee based upon the school.
Yeah, I think total fee is helpful. Yes, Steve.
And how's it compared to the budget? Like, we've created a budget that we still need to review with you, but where's that compared to the line item for architectural design fees
Right.
as well?
Right. Okay. Yes,
So-
Tina.
I have a question that's probably better answered by you. So I know that in the private sector, when we go out and we solicit architects and we get their fee proposals, we usually work in some kind of a, we don't want to be nickeled and dimed over, erroneous stuff or stuff that they may have designed that then doesn't work in the building once you start actually building it. And so there's some of that where, they go back and they have to redesign stuff and we aren't being nickeled and dimed for every time they have to go back and fix something, especially if they made an error or there was something that was unforeseen that they needed to fix because they didn't get it right the first time. Is that normal in the public sector as well, or does it
Yeah,
not?
we have in the contract, we have an errors and omissions clause that requires them that if there is, any error or omission, they have to correct at their own cost. We also expect that minor change orders, even, if you have a minor request, the public school minor, we expect that. But if it's due to their mistake, negligence, error, anything on their behalf that we feel should have been done differently, that would be on their dime, and that's in the contract.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
Good question.
Thank you.
Okay.
And part of the RFP process, we'll give them a design budget. Of that $76 million, we give them a budget of 50 million, call it, just for rough numbers. And they have to design to that. If they go over, they've got to redesign back to that number.
Okay, yep,
So they're designing to a budget that we've provided them.
okay.
Yep.
That's helpful.
It is helpful, but my follow-up question to that is, how do we decide that? Who decides that? What their allotted, portion of the $76 million is?
We do have a clause in our contract that is, and you'll read it in the contract. It starts out at 1%, and it's typically in our contracts it is 1%, and then it is
For the architects?
for the architects for errors and omissions.
Okay.
Well, there's typically where that is sometimes negotiated
Uh-huh.
to a higher percentage, but not all the time.
Okay.
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to make sure I understood your question, Lauren. I think you're asking is, who sets the budget? Exactly what the budget is, or the error and omission percent?
It was both, but it was initially the first.
Yeah, so the budget, that's something that we've already developed a draft budget. We already talked about it a little bit. I think one of our next follow-up meetings, we should have an item just for reviewing that with the committee, and show you how we recommend the budget to the committee, the full project budget.
So I'm always looking for my next agenda. So right now I have a standard list of questions that we need to develop, but then also let's add to that,
And we've already
developing a
drafted
budget
it.
or
We
budget
can-
process.
Yeah, we can show you how we recommend it based upon previous bids received. We just received recent bids on a early childhood school, which is a similar type of build as this. Extremely favorable, almost scary favorable. But we do have history there we would recommend based upon similar projects that we've had in the past. Site work, again, we've already put in demolition of the existing building in there. But review with you in detail how we recommend your budget. It's totally up to you what you want to put in there, but
Okay.
we don't expect it to change too much based upon experience.
But I think it's helpful for all of us going into this next phase to understand how it all works.
Absolutely. It's your budget at the end of the day.
Okay, so Mark, back to your highlighted portions here for F.
Yep.
Virtual, I think you've got that figured out,
Yep,
right?
we have that figured
It's
out.
gonna be. And then March 2nd, that's when we're talking about having it due because it's the day before.
Day before gives Adam
So the-
and Collier's the time to process it and get it ready for after the presentations.
Okay. And they would have, Adam, they would have, at that point, right, when everything is due on the 2nd, they'll have already submitted their fee proposals. I think internally, we just need to have a better understanding of when those fee proposals will be released to us as a committee for us to review. It's just something to think about for the future.
Yeah, I think how I'm understanding this is like internally we'll review them on the 2nd, and then on the 3rd, assuming there's no major issues or anything, after the interviews are complete, we would share the numbers with you to complete the scoring process.
There. On the 3rd? Okay. So you guys will be the ones to sort of cross all the Ts, dot the Is, and make sure that the numbers are correct. Well, that's a relief to me.
And level.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Delivery method, construction manager at risk. Scope of design services, basically through the contracts, minimum services provided. This is where we get into the design, minimum of 3 alternates carried through schematic design. Depending on how the building committee wants, we can estimate all 3, estimate one or 2. We will tell them in the AIA documents, basically, it's a checkbox, this is, include this in your proposal, the different.
Would you mind just scrolling down just a little bit? Didn't we discuss yesterday under design, when we were talking about the schematic versus conceptual?
Yes.
We talked about moving,
Yes. This was conceptual design.
okay,
Um,
and we're gonna put this under schematic instead.
We can.
I mean, we still need conceptual designs, yes?
Yes.
But we would like to have-
That'll be part of the schematic design, yeah.
Okay.
Phase.
Does that paragraph need to carry down to the second one?
We can carry that down.
Yes, Adam?
So Mark, we've now established that we're not going to attach the AIA docs
Correct.
to this. So should I think it's worth maybe leaving some of these AIA references here, but maybe we should also just add a sentence or something indicating that the AIA documents will be provided as part of the eventual RFP or
Yep.
something like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. It doesn't need to be everything in there right now.
The architects are going to be familiar with those documents.
Yeah, I mean, AIA are the industry standard
It is there.
architect contracts.
Far too many of them.
Colliers the reason it needs to be reviewed is because Colliers has
Modified.
made some modifications to them, but
In favor of the-
structurally, they're very standard.
Oh, yeah.
AIAs are written by the architects, in favor of the architects.
Absolutely.
And we have modified them to level them out and make them fair for the towns and owners as well. Geotech services, site survey, the environmental assessment, hazardous materials investigations, traffic analysis, the owner-architect agreement, and we will get, this is with the proposal submissions, special requirements. Basically, this is where we call in that, we are going to the state for reimbursement, and they will be providing us with the documentation to do that. Statement of qualifications, minimum requirements, 1 through 10, I believe, are pretty
Standard.
standard.
Okay.
1 through 9, I should say, are,
Yeah.
we want to know brief history, want to make sure your license, profile, we want to know who your subconsultants are, who you're listing, and at that point, they should have them, they're on, the major ones on board. They might not have their acoustical engineer on board, but they should have their MEP, their civil, and their structural. Then we want to get their list of K through 12 projects, and they want to tailor those towards basically elementary, 80, in the $80 million range. And then just statements of you're not an employee or any relation to
The town.
the town or any of the,
No conflict of interest.
Okay.
Then I've added these into, initial project thoughts and project approach. I know in the early building committees, there was a discussion on different alternates, different thoughts, and that's what we want to get out of these architects are their thoughts on how to best use the site and how to best serve the site can serve the school itself. So this will be 10 and 11 will be more project specific, and just not qualifications. That'll give you. They will definitely expand on these as they go to the presentations and the interviews. But this will give the initial thoughts on it. And then 5, this is process. Evaluation criteria. And the numbers are highlighted because the numbers and the points on how we weight the different criteria is up to the building committee. These are straight out of Mill Hills, but they don't have to be what the Dwight Building Committee uses for.
So thank you, Mark. So we did discuss this yesterday. I found it fascinating. I would think that number 4, experience with knowledge of federal, state, and municipal processes, requirements, and procedures. It's weighted here as 5, but I feel like that's pretty important. If they didn't have a very good understanding and experience with all of those, that could be seriously detrimental to us. So, we might want to tweak a few. Obviously, experience is important. Fee proposals as well. I understand why those are weighted more heavily, but this is something for us to discuss, guys. I would ask, Mark, maybe we could have this draft. Since now we didn't actually list it as a handout for this meeting, but I think it would be helpful for everyone to just be able to kind of absorb it and better understand it. If you could send it to me, I can post it to everybody. And then we could kind of have this discussion next week. I'll also add that to our agenda as well. This exactly what we want the points to be for each criteria number.
Hey.
Yes, Adam. Oh, sorry, Adam. I saw you first, and then Nicole. I can go to you if you'll just.
No worries.
Wait 1 sec. Okay, yes, Adam.
Mark, I don't know if you know, is this required by the state or QBS to do? Because for just sort of general RFPs, we've actually moved away from putting the points in the RFP. We say what the criteria are.
But they don't need to know what it is. True.
Traditionally they are there. So,
Okay.
But we've sort of moved away from it. But if there is so I guess what I'm saying is we can list the criteria, but if we don't need to list the points, we don't need to beat ourselves up over it right now, unless something with the Office of School Construction or anything says that we should do this. But
I'll defer to Chuck.
he stepped off.
I'm assuming if it's always been there, it might still be there.
There's nothing wrong with doing it. I was just.
But it's a good question, Adam. Let's wait for Chuck and then we can follow up with him. Nicole, did you have a question that was related to this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say what you might want to keep in mind that I'm betting that's why the number on that whole state thing is so low. If you have under qualifications a scope of work of a school building of a similar size, and they've done work on that, it's kind of almost a given, but you should still call it out like they said. Almost no schools are built off of private money unless you're talking universities and private. So if they've been doing any public school building, they had to deal with the state. Everyone's getting these same subsidies and these credits back. So it's kind of like one lens to the other. So if you're giving us a good amount of similar qualifications of public schools of this size, then that state question kind of answers itself, but you should still call it out for the sake of making sure that they can't be like, well, we didn't know you wanted us to have it. But that might be why that number is a little lower.
That totally makes sense. And again, we can keep this if we all feel comfortable, like that the points, you know, align with the importance of the selection criteria category. However, if we feel like we want to adjust it, I'm just saying, since this hasn't been done for a while, right? It's been at least 3 years since the last building project, but since an actual new build, it's been since Burr, which is 20 plus years ago. So we have the opportunity to maybe tweak this a little bit, is all I'm saying. Yes, Dina.
I like the idea of not putting in the point scoring.
Yeah.
If we don't have to.
Just doing the selection criteria.
Just doing the selection criteria, because this way here, anybody who's got half a brain is going to go, okay, well, you know, 30 points is the most, so our fee proposal's where we should really spend our energy. And, you know, the candidate's experience, well, that's the next biggest thing. So that's where and that's 50 points, which gets us halfway there. So we don't have to really worry about this other stuff. Mm-hmm. I think we'll get more complete proposals if we don't have the weighting on there.
I love that.
Let me confirm.
Totally
yeah,
agree.
If you and Chuck could do some research, like if we're gonna like risk funding by not doing it, obviously we'll do it. But yeah, my recommendation would be to not worry about putting the points in there.
And if
Just
that
take
is
points
the
off
case,
to
maybe
meet the selection criteria categories.
if that is the case, can we just make all the categories worth the same?
Well, we can do whatever we want,
Yeah.
but I just don't think we have to disclose it.
Well, we have time, obviously, we have until March 3rd to decide exactly how we want to do this. So maybe we'll table, maybe it's not an agenda item for next week. But let's follow up with Chuck and just figure out if this is something that is absolutely needed, just the whole thing in general. I do think it's important. If it's something that's always, that has always been on an RFQ, to leave it in. But I agree wholeheartedly with Dina. I don't think they need to know how we're weighting the points. Yes. Sal. You're on mute.
Sorry. Another way that you may go about it is just to break it into 3 groups. Items 1 through 5 as 1 score, quality of presentation, another score, and fee proposals. So you'll have where the worry that I'm hearing is about how do you separate how important 1 through 5 is in that overall category. Just make it that sum of all those, the 40, 55% of your score are these things, and just do it that way. Just throwing it out as a,
You got short list off 1 through 5.
yes.
And then have quality of presentation be one and fee proposals be another.
Right. The greatest point of this evaluation is not, because it's a quality-based selection. You don't want to be prejudiced by a low bid in either direction early on in the process. That's why the proposals, the dollar proposals, are opened as the very last thing, so that all of your thought process is on the quality of the what's submitted for the shortlist, and you're shortlisting off of that. And then the presentation obviously is an important, you have to feel good about the people that you'll be working with, and those presentations give you that opportunity to get that connection with the folks that will be part of your team. And then obviously at the end, of course, money is a factor, but it is not the only factor. That's why it's only 30%, typically 30% in past projects.
Wise words, Sal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's table it for now. We'll find out if it needs to be included in the RFQ, or if we can at least just take away the points. And then we'll figure out the points at a separate time. Okay.
or you can, yeah, to Sal's point.
What's past that? Additional services or significant changes? Nothing there, right? This is all standard.
All standard. Submissions will be through Bonfire, and inquiries, as we spoke about, will be through Bonfire as well.
Okay. And Adam, we did have one question about this. Is there a possibility for Mark, I don't know how you configure all of us, you know, when we accepted Bonfire and we all went through the whole process before, can Mark be allowed to see those questions, to like review them with you?
Yeah, Lee is our like bonfire master, so I'll have to just check with her. There's different roles we can assign different people, so I would just have to double check which role.
Yeah.
So have we sent you an invite for anything
No,
previously?
this is our first Bonfire.
So yeah, so we would have to send you an invite to Bonfire. You'd have to create an account, and then we could assign you a role for specific bids or RFPs that we start to put in draft mode. So.
We'll need to add one more too. Okay, it is a really fascinating, I don't know if we're calling it an application, but I found the whole process to be really streamlined, nice, easy, and they walked us through the whole process too.
It's a work in progress for us still, but I think there's some features you and Chuck might find interesting.
Okay, and then the appendices,
Are just the ones that we listed above, so.
okay.
these
But we're
will-
talking about taking those out, Adam?
Or these will be listed as part of the proposal,
Okay,
RFP process.
so they won't go out in the RFQ, not yet.
Correct.
Okay, guys, I know we're at like an hour and a half now. Well, really with our delayed start, closer to an hour and 15, but does anybody have any questions on this process? I found it very helpful to go through. I will make sure to send this out to all of you, so that you have the chance to be able to review it. And then, you know, when we come back to the table next week, maybe we have more questions. I know just on first sight, I think it was very thorough. I really appreciate you putting this together for us, Mark, and also appreciate you sort of agreeing to come in over what we thought was going to be a break. But okay, so the plan is to meet here again next week at 2:00.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. We'll be sure that I do know the space is booked. I don't know what happened with the Zoom, but we'll figure it out. And then we talked about you, Nicole, and I kind of going over the agenda on Thursday. And Nicole, I'll decide, you know, discuss with you what would be a good time of day for you. Is there anything else that I have completely lost my agenda that I had up here? Open board discussion, number 7. I'm just going to move to that now. Does anybody have any questions about this process or something they want to understand better or why we're doing it a certain way? It seems pretty straightforward to me. I think the only thing that's new is the introduction of Bonfire to this whole process. We have seen it once, but this is totally new for you guys. So I think
And the response is going to be greater.
yeah, the responses, the volume is going to be much, I mean, I will say this, that I was personally shocked at how long the presentations were, right? When they were initially came through. I mean, yours was a very doable length. It was great. I mean, I did block off some time to be sure to go through every page, but the other submittal was like twice as long. It took much longer. It turned out to be a lot of fluff. I know Nicole and I were like, why? Why are there just page after page of, I don't even know what it was, but it was a lot of numbers. But yeah, so I think it feels pretty comprehensive right now. I think what this will solicit, what this will bring back for us to review is yet to be seen. But I'm assuming it's going to be a lot.
Yes.
I'm assuming that having 2 committee members per submittal is like the bare minimum of what we can each expect to do. I will try to get eyes on as many of them as I can myself, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. So, and what was just so I'm clear, going back to the schedule, what was from the time that they submit them until we have to review and then they're in front of us, what was that lag time? Was it 3 weeks? No, that was the 2 weeks.
12 days.
12 days.
29th of January is when they come in. So what remainder of the 29th we have? 31st. And then the whole following week, and then 8th, 9th, and 10th of the following week.
Okay.
Up to the building committee meeting.
Okay. Oh, I mean, it's certainly doable. We're just going to have to sort of knuckle down. And then there was one open question about the CM. I don't think we have to answer it right now. We can just,
Yep.
I don't want to leave it unanswered about whether or not we wanted to do 3 week, right, for them.
And as we discussed yesterday, we don't think it's as necessary to that additional week. We can get them in, shortlist them, and then provide them 2 weeks for the
Yes.
presentation and interviews
Yes.
versus the 3 for the
And-
architect.
One other thing I did want to mention, because we did discuss this yesterday, sort of during our pre-meeting, and for those of you who might not be aware, Adam and I went to the Board of Selectmen meeting on December 17th when we talked about bringing Colliers on board as our PMO, and the initial reaction by the Board of Select persons was that it was a pretty big jump to go from an expected date from the Spiegel's report of the actual project being completed in September of 2028 to now September of 2029. So it's a year difference, and the idea is that we would spend the majority of the time in the design process. It's an extended from, I think Spiegel's had it at 9 months, which is very,
17, yep.
very rapid, to 17 months. So, but we would make sure that everything is done correctly during that time. However, it really shocked a lot of people, and they had a lot of questions about it, and we did our best to answer, what the thinking was there. And I think what we sort of discussed, Adam, just so you know, Chuck was saying that maybe we put it up to the architects to decide. I don't think they'll push back. I don't think they'll say that's not enough time. But the interest of the town, it seemed to me, was to shorten that, if at all possible. And I said even by a couple of months, even if we had a 15-month design process and then moved on to the CM phase. And who knows, maybe the CM will say, oh, I can get this done in X amount of time versus, the initial, timeline that we have there, which I can't remember off the top of my head.
13 months.
Right. No, for the CM phase. Design was 17 months, CM was,
24, which is basically what we have if you count from shovel in the ground to end of demo.
right. But so, I think in good faith to the town, since that's our role, we are working for the town, we'd like to see if there's a possibility to shorten it. We're not asking you to shorten your timeline, but we may be asking the architects to see if they can kind of reconfigure it. Really, I go back to Marcy Spollier's question, which was there any thinking to possibly, have the project completed by like the end of the calendar year and to move the students in over the holiday break? And, my response to that was, that's not a lot of time, because once you complete the building, you need to get all the FF&E, all the furniture, the chairs, all of the soft materials moved over from the old building to the new building. And if anybody's questioning that, I am too. It seems silly that we would move old furniture to the new, but that was part of the cost savings when Spiegel's was initially presented with this, was that we would try to keep some of the old materials. I don't know if that includes books, anything, computers, I assume, but it's a very short turnaround to try to do that in 2 weeks versus, say, the whole summer, right?
Hey, Laura.
Yes.
During that time as well, and they're going to be on break. So I think we might run into a problem with the teachers.
That's
union as
true.
well.
So
I was just going to say that the teachers would have to reset up their bulletin boards, their decorations, everything you see that a teacher spends 2 weeks in August doing.
yes,
We need to get the
agreed.
furniture in and then allow them, so they'd have to be willing to work over break.
Agreed. But I think Marcy's point was just like, had we discussed it? Has that ever been done? And I'm sure over the course of history, yes, there have been buildings that have opened in January as opposed to September. However, I think the school of thought, pun intended, is that you open in September so that you have, and finish the project really in May or June, so that you have the benefit of, you know, the months off when the school is not occupied, to be able to make sure the commissioning is all done, all the systems are working, and you've brought in the FF&E before you welcome the teachers back initially, right, to set up their rooms.
Which is going to be the beginning of August.
Yes, and then it's really the end of August because we start, of course, before Labor Day here.
Well, that's why I'm saying the beginning of August, the teachers are in setting up their rooms. They start their training and everything that they go through, and then the kids show up in the middle of August.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, going back to the timeline, I understand their shock. I was shocked as well. I would like to try to you know, move things along at a reasonable pace, not cut any corners, make sure that we're doing this correctly. I think we could leave it up to the architects to see if there's a possibility of shortening the timeline, but I don't want to like make that.
We could pose questions to them at the interviews. So.
Well, part of the RFP process will be, we'll ask them if they can better the design time. We'll ask them for a proposal for the 17-month design, so we can compare, you know, company A to company B to company C. But if they see an opportunity, they can propose an opportunity to shorten that from 17 months to whatever they feel they can do it in. But keeping in mind that they will have to basically put pencils down at the end of schematic, at the end of design development,
And not tweak it again. Yeah.
Correct. That way we can do our constructability reviews and our estimates to make sure that we are on track, so we're not waiting until 90% design completion and then figure out that we're over budget. We want to be doing that. We take steps during the process to make sure that we're on track. So we are on budget at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Just know that I'm just providing the feedback from the town.
Yep.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments, questions, complaints? Yes.
Moves to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Second. Wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you here next week.